Can you see my screen?
Yes, you can see us.
Yes. Please let me know if you have any problem seeing my screen or any issues with that. Okay, so today's basically our topic today was quite technical, yeah, compared to the previous lectures. I mean, the first two lectures by Prof. Tajuddin was a kind of philosophical in the sense that he was trying to give us understandings, yeah, a clear understanding on what is actually histories and what is theory and philosophies. Yeah. So, but today's, I think today's lectures will be very useful for some of the students who currently working on your master or PhDs. Yeah. I think it will be very useful. It's a very technical presentation, so I'll try my best to keep it as simple as possible. Yeah. So if you have any questions, feel free to ask me any questions. You can drop a chat. At the same time, you can raise hand so that we can discuss. So I'll try my best to answer the questions. Yeah. If I were not able to answer the question, then I will will record your question. Then maybe we can discuss on another lectures. Yeah. Maybe a week after this. Yeah. 1 or 2 weeks after this. Okay. So today's I will be giving two lectures. One we talk about research design and methodologies. Yeah, I mean in general. Yeah, we will have lectures by Dr. Nazira, who will be talking about quantitative research methods, and we will also have Dr. Aina. Dr. Aina will be sharing on qualitative research methods. But today is we're going to discuss about number one is that how we actually design our research. Yeah, this is very important. What are the factors that we have to consider when we designing our research? And the second part, I'll be discussing about how to write a research proposal. Yeah, how to write a proposal. Sometimes when I ask my students, yeah, when you want to start doing a master or PhDs, what I suggest them is that to write a brief research proposal, maybe like 2 or 3 page only. Yeah, at least we found out, at least we can identify key informations, yeah, some key informations that we can use for the development of the complete research proposal at the end. So hopefully it will help today's lectures. For my students, I think you have to take a note. I'll be sharing the PowerPoint after this and also the recorder. But I would like you to take notes, because this is the one that you're going to present. You're going to be presenting your proposal at the end of this semester. Not the one that you submit for your PhD, but we are expecting the revised one. I mean the one that you actually plan to do during your PhD studies. Yeah. So in the research design, we'll be discussing about problem formulations, measurement, what is what we call as a universe of populations. We will talking about sampling also, how then the data collections, and we will talking about instruments. This is some of the key important point, when we discussing about designing your research methodologies and also approach. Problem formulations. So one of the very important, I think even the most important steps when you want to prepare a good research design is that you have to start from problems. I think I've been examining quite numbers of PhD and master thesis without a problem identification. That's a big no lah. You will face lots of problems during your viva later on. The issues about problem statement or problem formulation is that you need to answer a question why on the needs of your research. That was the first question they will ask. The examiner, most of the examiner will ask the first question on that. They will ask you why we need this research. If you are not able to convince them that the research is important, that there's a very urgent and important issues that you have to address, then you lose the whole thesis, the whole research. So it's the most important step lah. That one, when you start a research, you must identify a clear, arguable problem. A well-formulated problem is crucial in any research. It is very crucial. So any one of you, when you did your master or PhD, but you're not sure about the issue that you would like to address, you have to rethink about your thesis. So normally, when we talk, the research, basically we are not trying to solve the problems, but we are trying to approach, to approach the problems with certain solutions, with certain recommendations. Each problem statement, so when you already identify the issues, you have to come up with a problem statement. So problem statement is very important for you to move because your objective, your methodology later on, your scopes will be defined from this problem statement. So each problem statement require a distinctive solution, not to say solution to solve the problems. We as a researcher, we are not we don't have to ensure that the problem was solved, but basically we are trying to recommend something in order for us to overcome the issues and the problems. That was the issues. There's a different possible ways of researcher come up with a topic of studies. This is where you want to start a research topics, and this is the area where you identify the problem. Number one is that sometimes the problem comes from the practical or field problem. Field issues. When you go to the sites, you go to the practice, you go how the people are designed. For example, like in architectures, in the construction of the buildings and the design process of the buildings, those are problems on field. For example, like I give example here, when you talk about highway, plus highway, want to training program at plus, you see there certain requirement was required for to be inserted in the training. So you are come out from the what you found in the field. That was first inspirations, possible source of the problem. The second one, we call it a personal thought of experience. I think this one is very rare. Based on my experience supervising and examining some students, lots of students, it's very rare we found a problem based on experience. It's there. Some of you might not realize. Some of the students, they might be a teacher, for example, teacher for elementary school students, being teaching for 10 years. They didn't realize that based on the experience in 10 years, they will find a lot of problems. So that's one of the source, very important source. Of course, when you talk about personal thought and experience, you have to back it up with some academic reference. I think that's very important. It cannot be too subjective lah. It cannot be only based on what you think. You have to dig up, get other expert opinion or maybe some academics source. I give you example is like civil engineering students, villagers have problem with clean and safe potable water, something like that. So it's an interesting source of problems. Or maybe you can come up from the literature. When you're looking at the existing literature, what research has been done, what are the theories that people are proposing for that particular research. So those kind of things can also be a source of information for your problem. And the last one, I think this is also I found quite numbers of research problems identified by the projects. Sometimes you have a research project. For example, you have a research project in your countries. Like for example, I meet some of my Chinese students, students from China. They are explaining that the government of China was making these projects of education, for example. So they would like to have this type of courses in school, for example. So those kind of research projects, might wait for takers. So that those can be one of the source for the issues and problems. Okay. Once you have identified the research topics, this is very important. Yeah. So once you identify the research topics, it's important to examine the accessibility of the project. This is what we talk about. Manageable. We always, when you start research, you already have idea what topic to be done. You have identified the issues. You identify the research problem. Then you have to think about this. Yeah. Number one, you have to think about time factors. Yeah. Remember, you are not doing your master for 5 years, for example, or maybe PhD for 10 years. Even though I know some people are doing PhD for 10 years, but it's not something that you plan. Yeah. I think PhD maximum for me lah, maximum you have to finish in 3 years lah. 3 years, 3.5 might be, but like a master supposed to be in 2 years. Yeah. But we are not planning to do it more than that. So when you decide to pick up a topic, always think about the time factors. Yeah? Whether I will be able to finish the studies within the stipulated times. Yeah, based on my experience, this is the one very lacking among the students. Yeah? I meet some of the new students. They explain, I want to do this, I want to do that. I say, okay, you can do that, but you finish your master in 5 years lah. Say, wow, how do you know? Because we have an experience. Yeah? Like your supervisor might be person who are very experienced in managing a research. So he or she know when this proposal coming in, you want to do this, we can identify what kind of steps or stages that you have to go through. Yeah, that's the first one. Yeah. Second one is the content of the projects. Yeah, you have to have a good control of your projects. Yeah. For example, this one is for when you talk about experimental research, yeah, you have to be very clear what are the things that require there. So if I did this project, this is the thing that must be. Yeah. Also, you have to think about limited resource, yeah, breeder control, yeah, in your research project. So you have to be very careful on that. Yeah. This content, for example, like I have one student who did analysis of parliament building in Malaysia. So I will ask them, do you have access to the project? Because I think parliamentary minutes will be very important. Yeah? If you don't have access to the data, then you have a problem. So you have the content. But the students say, oh, my brother's working in the parliament, so he kept the document of parliament. Oh, that's good. I mean you have the access to that. Yeah? The third one that you have to think about ethical and moral boundaries. I think this is also very, very important. Yeah? Some researcher, they just think about getting an outcome, a great outcome, without considering sometimes your research involve lots of very fragile communities. Yeah? For example, one of my students was doing a research in elderly communities. Yeah? So I keep telling them, if you want to do something with elderly community, ensure that you have these ethical committees to approve, whether if it's an interviews, whether it's a questionnaire distributions, or you want to do experiment. Yeah? Some of my students want to do experiment. They want to put a helmet, this neuro helmet to the elderly. I think that will bring lots of issues to the research itself. A good scientific research is not just about finding a solution to a problem, but also doing so in responsible and sensible manners. Yeah, I think this is a very important note that you have to think about. Okay. The last one, which is also very important, you have to think about cooperation from the relevant parties. Yeah, as I said before, when you want to do some research, some company, maybe the data for them is private and confidential data, so they want to share with you. So I keep telling my students, if you want to do something, please check with the relevant parties and ensure that they are supporting the projects. Yeah? So I think that will be very, very important, in the research, especially research related with industries or the government authorities. This kind of research require a very good relationships, so that the other party is willing to cooperate. Without cooperation, you cannot have the data, you cannot do the research. I think that's a key element of that. Okay. Then we talk about measurement. Yeah? So when you talk about research, we are trying to measure something. Even the most loose, the most loose research always anchor in certain kind of measurement. So when you talk, you did a social science research, you measure, for example, you are measuring the tribals, the native people, how they do things. You must to set a tools, a tools or something to measure. What is the one that you like to measure? Yeah, for example, even like architecture theory. Some my student doing architecture theory for example, like measuring the postmodern values. The values is we call it as a level. Postmodern top level, for example, if you can say something like that. So they have to measure something. Maybe put a 1 star, 2 star. Maybe you can put some measurement so that. But as I said, the basic to all measurement is based on the nature of the data. Yeah? So you have to be, it has to be measured, not in the sense that sometimes when we talk about engineering or experimentals one, we are looking at the very exact measure. Yeah? But that one can be like social science. Also, you have a certain level of measurement. Yeah? So that you know which level actually this data is that you gather. Yeah? That's very important. Yeah. So the measurement, there are two considerations which is very important in the measurement. One we call it validity, the other one is reliability. Yeah? Validity means concern with the soundness, effectiveness of the measuring instrument. Yeah? So you have soundness means when we talk about for example like structure engineers. When we talk the structure should sounds mean that you know that this one won't collapse. The bridge won't collapse, for example. So that was the validity. The other one is the reliability. Reliability deals with accuracy. Yeah. So you can ask how accurate is the instrument. For example, when you talk about sundial, times, parameter. So you have to be very clear on these two elements of measurement. Yeah. Another terms which is very important, sometimes people using for statistical purpose, is universe of population. You have to be very clear about your population. Yes. I keep telling my students, sometimes you can call it a finite and infinite. Sometimes your population can be measured, can be counted. Sometimes it's not. For example, I give you an extreme one, stars in the sky, something like that. A pair of dice. So those kind of things is infinite population. Yeah, the whole population. Okay. We have a population, but sometimes or most of the time, every research we use a sampling. Yeah. Some people use random sampling. Sampling means selection of some sort of an aggregate or totally on the basis with judgment or inference about the aggregate or totally is made. Okay. So something I use the word representation. Yeah. So when you pick up a sample, it should be representing the data. Yeah. For example, when you talk about let's say you do the research on community mosque, so your sample should be a community mosque, not suddenly you pick up one Jamek mosque, or state mosque. So this is a different sampling which is not representing the one that you want. Yeah. So as I said, that should be truly representative of population characteristic without any bias. I think this is a we are trying. If you're referring to Prof. Tajuddin's lectures, no such thing as no bias. But we are trying to reduce the biasness, the biasness of the certain research. Why we use sampling? Some people they prefer to pick up the whole population. I have a research when students pick up the whole population, but sometimes you need a sampling because you need to save time and money, enable more accurate measurements. Yeah? The only way, because sometimes when the population is too big, so you need to reduce. Yeah? You have to do it in the more efficient manner. Yeah? Enable to estimate sampling error. Yeah? So this is a very important note that you have to think about. When we talk about data collection, yeah, there are two types of data. I think this is very important for the students. What they call it primary data. The second one we call it secondary data. Primary data mean the one that we collected. Yeah? For example, like for those who doing experiment, they do data collection during the experiment. Yeah. Sometimes you do it from observation, direct communication with respondent. Yeah. So these are the several methods in collecting primary data. Yeah. I think we can discuss further on that. Secondary data may be data which was published or unpublished. There are two possible source of secondary data. Yeah. Published means various publication like in the government, technical journals, books, magazine, reports. These are published data. Yeah. But you also have some unpublished data. Yeah. For example, like you have the diaries. Sometimes you go to like an architect, for example, you meet the architects. I meet some of the famous architects. He have notes, books. He or she sometimes sketch for me, showing this is the one, the idea that I would like to develop. So those things called unpublished data. Both can be used for your thesis, but of course, the most important that you mentioned very clear. This is, for example, of course, the published data bring more weight than the unpublished data, because published data means some other people might have read it, yeah, might have read it. So then it was published. Published means some people might argue about it, give comment on that. So it's more developed than unpublished data. Yeah. Instrument. Yeah. This is also very important. Yeah. A device used to measure data. You need to have instrument. Yeah. When there is a validity, reliability, so you have to have a very clear instrument to measure. Yeah, I think this is we will discuss further when we talk about qualitative and quantitative data later on. Yeah, so you know there's a things called instrument. Yeah, when you did laboratory works, yeah, you have to think about certain steps about laboratories, yeah, apparatus. You have to your equipment there. Yeah, you have to plan your work, keep full records. Yeah, try to avoid errors. Yeah, try to minimize we call it margin error for those things. Yeah. Inaccuracies because alternative. Yeah, of course you have to work safely lah for that particular one. So I think some of you did experiment, you have to really consider on this kind of considerations. Yeah. Some people do modeling. Yeah. Modeling means you are doing you are transferring problem formulation into a model. Yeah. Model is a simplified representation of a system. You have a software. So, but I don't know. As I keep on having an examination of students and also some research that I've done, I found out actually now people are abusing the modeling. I don't know. I'm not sure, but when you want to do some kind of modeling is something, a tool to help you to simulate the data, simulate the outcome, simulate the scenarios. But some people I saw some students, they just playing with some of the variables. Yeah? Without a clear understanding of the whole philosophical construct of the research. Yeah? For example, I give you example. I have examined students who do modeling for the green roof and green wall. Yeah, I think this is a very common topic. So what he did was he did choosing one house, then one green roof was maybe 10 degrees, then you change it into 15 degrees, they change it into 20 degrees. So if you run this simulation, I think not to say it's wrong, it's just I think you need to understand the whole construct of the philosophical understanding of the topics. I think that's important thing. But of course, it's one way of doing the research. While certain reason why we use modeling, maybe sometimes it's too expensive. Real system exists but cannot experimented, like nuclear or maybe the environmental one. What if model forecasting? These are type of modeling that we can use. Actually, it's a very powerful tool to use, but as more and more people abusing, I say some students I saw is abusing this modeling system. Just put the data, then you get something. Put the data, you get something. I think that's not the real research is about. I think we have to discuss further on that. Computer modeling, these other things. Among the very important consideration when we talk about modeling. And the other one is that you might obtain data from people. I think this is also very important. Tests, questionnaire, interviews. These are the one that you really collect data from the people. Tests. I think you can have read the detail of different type of data that you can use from the people. One is they call it questionnaires. Questionnaires when you distribute it to the people, but sometimes people are using Likert scale. But always, I always tell to my students, when you distributing questionnaire, do a pilot survey. I mean, don't directly throw away 300 questionnaire, then expect for good result. It's not. Please don't do that. Please start maybe like 10 questionnaire, maybe 20 questionnaire. At least you can start. If you find there's a problem with your instrument, which is your questionnaire, then you can modify it. That's very important. What is characteristic of good questionnaire? If you are choosing questionnaire as your source of data, it should be complete. I mean, it cover all the data we need. It should be short. You don't abuse respondent time and concentration. Ask only relevant question. Give a clear instruction. For example, if you want to choose this, give a clear instruction. Precise, unambiguous, understandable question. As objective, so you can read this. So appropriate question. You don't ask something sensitive questions. Question something 4 points. Sometimes they use 4-point scale. One thing very important is we don't have no right. We have no right to expect total honesty. We cannot expect the respondent answer with honest. It depends on that. And one of the very critical issues with the questionnaire is that it's non-written or non-written issues. You distribute 100 questionnaire, only 50 coming back. The other 150 gone. 100 gone. So for example, something like that. Next one, interview. Interview involves one-to-one verbal interaction. So we have 3 types of interviews. One is they call it structured interviews. The second one we call it semi-structured, and the last one we call it as a open-ended. The structured means you structured yes, no question, something like that. It's more like a questionnaire. It's close to questionnaire, but you ask people one by one. The questionnaire you distribute, ask them to fill in. That was the difference. But also you have semi-structured. You ask them a yes or no question or specific question, but also you leave them certain question. Give your opinion on things. Those kind of interviews, if you call it semi-structured, you combine between structured and semi-structured. And the last one we call it open-ended. Open-ended means is you ask them, I want them to explain more, to explore and explain more. I think that's the most important of that. So let me see. Okay, there's an advantage of interview of a questionnaire. You can clarify. So if you're not clear about the answer by the respondent, you can ask them again. That's the beauty of the questionnaire. But at the same time, also there's a advantage of questionnaire over the survey, over the interviews. Yeah? Even at the time, so you can get lots of response, yeah? In a very short period of time. Yeah? I think that's very important. Okay. Then we talk about two types of research. One, they call it quantitative. Yeah? The next one will be qualitative. Yeah? I mean, you can see here the differences of that. Yeah? In terms of purpose, approach, yeah? That how they collect the data, yeah? Independence, yeah? Samples. Yeah? So these are, I think, the next lectures we'll be discussing more about this. This data-driven design thinking, expression, how much, how many, why, what, how to fix. So it's more qualitative. You talk about quality. Think about quality. Quantitative means you talk about quantity, the numbers, everything, something like that. In qualitative research, we sometimes we don't find anything called truth, contextual, importance of the context. I think this is a few important notes when you're doing qualitative research. No right or wrong. I mean, both type of research was very important in the development of knowledge. Qualitative research might be this is the some of the content of it, just a brief introduction of that. You can have interviews, surveys, observation, focus group discussion. Those are, we call it a qualitative data collection. Interviews, case studies, ethnographic research, observation. These are type of research that we talk about qualitative one. Quantitative is also very important research. Sometimes you try to quantifying a problem. Problem sometimes is depend on quality. You try to quantify it in certain numbers, so that it can be measured. And I think that's very important. You can read these are random sampling, deductive reasoning. Deductive means you start from something general, and you go to something specific. Object-based research, you have numerical projection, and these are a sample of quantitative research methods. In quantitative, you talk about correlational research, you talk about survey research, and you talk about experimental research. These are some sample of the quantitative research. In terms of you can have these are the data collection that use quantitative, document review, probability sampling, interviews. Some interview even quantitative, because you try to measure something. Observation, survey and questionnaire. Okay, I think that's all for the research design. I think I just continue to the next. How to write a research proposal, so that I think you can always write in the chat box, if you have any questions. Of course, you can raise hand after this. Please take a notes of your question so that you don't forget when you want to ask about that. Okay, let's talk about writing a research proposal. Normally, in my previous class, I will give this lecture at the end of the lectures, because sometimes students, when they start to write the proposal, because they have to present the proposal and they have to defend the proposal later on. So normally, I like to put it at the back so that they can remember. So I hope all my PhD students here can remember certain point which is very important in this proposal writing. So we're only going to cover three important elements in these lectures. One is what is a research proposal, organization of a research proposal, and how to write a good research proposal. I think this is the gist of the presentations, the lectures. Research proposal is basically a statement of intent. What a good reason why research should happen or take place, written for dissertation or thesis. I think the terms dissertation thesis might vary, might be different from different countries. Like in most of the country in like in Malaysia or in other countries. I will explain the difference later on. We use thesis for PhD and master by research. Dissertation normally by coursework in Malaysia, in some maybe in Europe, something like that. Thesis and dissertation is a discourse. So, like I said, dissertation normally was used for master degree by coursework. For example, like our Master of Architecture program, so they are writing a dissertation. While thesis for master degree, doctoral degree by research. So dissertation thesis contain a question that require answer. In the research projects, it should be the one who showcase your research skill, mastery, field specialization, capability to do independent scholarly work. I always keep telling my students when you reach a level of masters and PhDs, postgraduates, you should be a very independent student. You cannot wait for your supervisor to direct you. So you have to propose. When I was a student, I prepare my research and I propose it to my supervisor. Don't wait until they instruct you, because sometimes the instruction is not the one that you want. Based on my experience, sometimes my supervisor instruct me to do things where I think that's not the way to do it. Then I have to propose before he instructs. That is the most important of it. Master dissertation thesis. So there's a research project with supervisor influence. I think with some academics content. Master thesis answer a research problem or question based on the previous literature. So I think master thesis is very direct, straightforward, and very small scope. But in PhD, the most important is the significant and original contribution. I think that's the most question that when we talk about the quality of the research itself. I just repeat it again. During the first lecture. When you are choosing your topic as supervisor, you have to choose topic that you're passionate about. Don't pick up a topic that you even yourself was not passionate about it. You don't like it. Don't pick a topic like that. So pick up a topic that things that you like. Of course, you have to pick up the supervisor, the expertise. You can see the guideline and everything. Guidebooks. So this is the process. So when you write about your research proposal, find your passion. Find your passion and topic of interest. I think I repeated this again from my previous lecture. What you're interested in, what question do you want to answer? Are you willing to study this for 1 to 10 years? That's the question that you have to. Of course, we don't plan to do our PhD in 10 years, but you might deal with it. Defining your research topic, you have to pick up a clear scope. This is a very important one. I explained to you before how we actually from a big topic, big pictures, then we narrow down into a specific scope of research. Like this one, you see, narrowing your focus. Environmental, you might talk about pollution. Environmental, lots of issue environmental. Even when you talk about socio-cultural environment, also there's a part of environment. But you only want to talk about pollution, for example. Ocean pollution, oil spill, effect on sea life. So you need to have this this diagrams how you actually narrowing down your focus. Especially for PhD, the topic should be very narrow and very specific. What should you do? Ask question. What do you know about it? Decide on topic. Ask. Do you want to explore? I think this is a question that you have to develop when you are developing your interest on topics. So general topics, you might think about knowledge gaps. Some research start from hypothesis. Some research might not be, but if you don't have hypothesis in the research, at least you have some expected outcome, yeah, from that one. What do you expect to achieve with this research? I think that's very important. Without that, you will have a problem, yeah, when you want to pursue the research in the future after that. Yeah. Defining your research topic, yeah, focusing your research. Also, after you narrowing down, you have to focus on your research. Yeah. Later on, we will discuss about literature reviews, everything. I think that's very important for you to focus on certain topic that you pick. I know students students always attracted with many topics. You know, when you write, especially when you write review, you read many things. Oh, this one is very nice. This one is interesting. I want to do this. I want to do that. At the end, you cannot. You not. Your research was very general and only in surface level. For PhD, it's a very big issue. Yeah. For master, sometimes we accept it, but for PhD, you cannot have those kind of research which is very general. They are not no clear contribution to the knowledge. I think that is very important. Yeah. So the way to do it is that note down your keywords. I think so. So I always tell my students when you pick up a topic, you have to pick up the keywords. Keyword is very important. So, okay, I go to do, for example, like let's pick up this one. Yeah? The keywords was sea life, oil spill, ocean pollution. These are the three important keywords. Pollution, ocean pollution. So when the student did literature reviews, they have to give what it means by pollution. Yeah, like a noise, also pollution. Yeah, so you have to be very clear on what is pollution. But what is the ocean pollution? Some people say it was plastics. Yeah? But on another movie, I saw it's not plastic, but it's a fishing net. So those kind of definition, discussion, theories, discourse is very important for you to understand, yeah, the gist of the project itself. Yeah. Okay, let's move. So then after that you can identify journals or books or articles that can support your research. So sometimes I suggest my student to go for journals, yeah, because journals is more academically proven, and I mean it's carried a bigger academic values, yeah, compared to the magazine or books. But sometimes some topics require you to books carry more weightage than the journal, something like that. So you have to be very careful on these matters. Yeah? Defining your research topic, research checklist. I think this one is very important. Note down bibliographical details. Yeah? Find the gaps in research. I mean, when you read many articles or many information regarding certain research, you might find the gaps, yeah? The one that people might have not been doing before. Yeah? Sample size, methodology, interpretation base, statistical manipulation, cultural limitation. Yeah. So how you need to looking at these gaps and try to improve it, yeah, through your research. Yeah. Organizing the topics. Yeah, so that's why this is a workshop. Yeah, I think today we have an online one. we later on with my student we need to develop a workshop model. Yeah, models. Yeah, some of you might be sleeping during these lectures, but during the workshop you are doing, yeah, something you're doing. You understand more. Yeah. You need to whiteboard a big sheet. Yeah, you can start. Planning, yeah, topic in general, separate construct topic, arrange topic in order. This is an exercise, yeah, that we are doing. I mean, I think in the futures, when we have this lecture series, yeah, I mean, we need to have this kind of what you call it as a workshop, yeah, rather than just a one-way lectures like this. Yeah. So maybe in the future, when I have visited some places, like I've done it before in some university in Indonesia, I think in Japan, in China before, yeah? Sorry, in Taiwan before, yeah. but I think we have to start working on that. It helps, the workshop helps the student to provide or to develop a map for their research. I mean, that's the most important of it. Yeah, for example, this is stem cells. Yeah, you have the general topic, read about nature, science, problem constraint. So you need to have this exercise. Yeah? Actually, this is an exercise that people need to do. For example, you did a construction management. Yeah? What are the issues? What are the topic? You have to note down everything, problem, constraint, construct. So you have to see from a lot of perspective. Yeah, I mean, from the previous, I said in my lecture before, I say what are the source of the problem that you can identify. Yeah. One thing very important is that when you did a literature reviews, yeah, I mean, proposal must contain a certain level of literature review, but not the whole chapters. You need to pick up very important literature to support your hypothesis or your problem statement. Yeah, I think that's very important. So, but you cannot just accept it. You cannot just use whatever literature that you found and use it for your research. You have to be very critical. This is a key element that I think most of the students is missing. Yeah, I'm not sure is it because of generation gaps or is it because of we have stopped thinking. I keep telling my children, you might stop thinking. When you stop thinking, then you are stop being critical. I think that's the key and the most important in the knowledge development. You have to always, that's why Prof. Tajudin said in the previous lecture, Buddha said, sorry, Buddha say the the wise people stay confused. So you have to be always critical. You questioning the things, yeah, for your research or for your own searching. Yeah? Yeah. Critically examining the literature, yeah, conceptualize the problems, assumption, limitation. Is this research relevant to my studies? Yeah. How constructs measure? Yeah, I think this is some point which is very important when you did a literature reviews. Yeah. I think there should be one lectures on that. Yeah. Organizing is a proposal. Yeah, let's understand what need to be in the research proposal. Yeah, title of studies, introduction, significance of research. Yeah, literature review, methodologies, expected result, ethical statement. Yeah, if your research involve some ethical people. Yeah, time frame. Yeah, budget, primary reference. I think these are the component that should be in the research. Yeah? Please help if anyone want to join our meeting. Just accept that because I can accept now in this lectures. Yeah? I think this is a basic content that must be in the research proposal. So for those, I mean, some students from education, yeah, I mean, some of you will be having a proposal defense. Yeah. So ensure that in your proposal you must have this content at least. Yeah, at least is a. Sometimes you add scope there. Yeah. You add very important component of your research, maybe consideration, something that you think is important, but this is the basic section that must be in your research proposal. Yeah. Title of studies. Yeah. Give reader a sense of what you are examining. Do not make it too general. one of the very the one that I found, lots of research proposal was very general. For example, I found urban evaluating urban island in China, for example. There's one research that I found evaluating the practice of construction management in Malaysia. So in Malaysia or in China is very general. Yeah, it's very wide. Yeah. I mean, in construction management, what kind of management are you proposing? Is it tendering? Is it managing the projects, or is it managing the design? Or so you have to be very clear on that. Okay? Do not make it too general. If possible, try to make it as specific as possible. Even sometimes I tell my student, you have to include the methodology there. For example, like people perception, okay? Evaluating people perception in in Chinatown in Kuala Lumpur, Petaling Streets, Kuala Lumpur, for example. So you have to mention people perception on what? Yeah, I mean, based on what? I mean, based on interviews, based on opinion, based on the owners of the shops, for example, something like that. Yeah, don't make it too general. Introduction. Yeah, you have to introduce the main question, interest in the study. Yeah, at least for my student, we have to take note. Yeah, some of this section, the topic of the question, brief historical overview. Sometimes you need to put some historical. For example, like when you talk about manual drawing, manual drafting, you have to tell them about the history of it. Yeah. Maybe during the École de Beaux-Arts, something like that. When you go to Bauhaus, in architectures, you have to do some historical overview sometimes. Yeah. And also in the introduction, you have to also give a kind of hint of or introduction why you're interested in the studies. I think this is very important so that we know that why the studies is important and urgent. Yeah? Significance of research, yeah? Indicate contribution, yeah? Your research overall aim, and also sometimes the hypothesis, a specific question. Yeah? That is one important one. Yeah? Literature reviews, yeah? Some literature review, I mean proposal must have literature review. Might not be the whole like 20-30 page, no, just but you have to pick up a very important literature that relates you with this research. Yeah? Must be well structured. So literature review in chapter 1, this proposal normally will become a part of chapter 1. Yeah? Must be well structured. That's why I keep telling my students chapter 1 is the most difficult chapters to write. Yeah? So if not to say not to say right, because some students when they write the chapter 1 they fix with it. They don't want to change. Yeah. While when you're collecting the data, interviewing the respondent, then you found out, oh, actually my research proposal was not accurate. Sometimes you need to make some adjustment, yeah, with your research proposal. So chapter 1 or research proposal is subject to change. I keep telling my students it's subject to change. You can always change even a few months before you do submission, you might change the whole chapter because of the data that you find in the future. I think that's very important. Literature reviews, yeah, for function. I think I just flip through, yeah, why necessary conduct research and everything. Methodologies, you have to talk about what are the methodologies that you choose, what are the research design. Remember my previous lectures, you've got qualitative, quantitative, interview, survey. These are the key elements that you have to mention in your research proposal. Okay? Data analysis, yeah? you might discuss how you analyze the data. Yeah? Expected result, yeah? Of course you have to talk about what you expect from the result of that. Yeah? Ethical statement. This is important for certain research, especially psychological or maybe social science research. So ethical statement is very important, yeah? So that you put a clear statement on your research. I think this is very important so that you are not will having problem later on in the future. Yeah? Okay. Time frame, yeah, you might discuss about your plan, yeah, maybe for the first semester this is the plan that I will do. Yeah. Budget, if you have a budget constraint, yeah, I mean your how are you going to finance the research. For example, I have a student who did documentation of mosques across Malaysia. He go from one state to another state, so you have to explain to us. Maybe first semester he will be covering like 10 mosques. Go to second semester another 10 mosques. So you have to put. Then we know, oh, why you covering from north side of Malaysia, then go to the south. So maybe you need to cover the south part first, go to the central, and go to the north. I think that's planning lah. Basically, it's a planning. And one of the very last important is primary reference. So when you write a research proposal, you have to show them what are the key reference that you're using. I mean, the key studies that very, very important for your research. For example, like when you talk about mosque architectures or Islamic architecture in Malaysia, for example, you might need to take some Prof Tajuddin's papers, Prof Tajuddin's books, yeah? Maybe my book or other professors' book as one of the key reference for your research. Yeah. So one thing that you might be very important, never underestimate the value of good reference list. Some students I saw now, maybe because of the journal, yeah, people pick up a journal. Books is more a kind of more structured. When you pick up a book, oh, this book is the gist of, let's say, when you talk about postmodern architecture, of course, a book like Charles Jang's books, language of postmodern architecture is very important. Yeah? So when you talk about political books in Malaysia, maybe Dr. Mahathir's books or maybe Anwar Ibrahim's books is a very important. It become the main reference for your research. I think that's is a very important things to consider. So when you writing a research proposal, it should be well structured, yeah, well written, clear and concise, and to the point. Yeah. Paragraph organization. And you have, when you write the paragraph, start with the topic sentence, explain, elaborate. So this is the one that you can identify. You might put an illustration. Yeah? Avoid long paragraphs. Yeah? I found some students, they put the whole page one paragraph. That's not wise, lah. I mean, you irritate your readers. We don't want to have that. One idea, one sentence. So you don't mix lots of ideas in one sentence. It create I use the words scattered. So when I read the student one, I say, oh, this one is a good thesis, but the way you present it was scattered. You scattered the data, you scattered the analysis, you scattered all things. So it's very difficult to understand. I think that's not a good things about the research proposal. Yeah? So you can see that this is a writing checklist just for you to check. Yeah? Grammar check, spell check, word correctly, one idea per sentence, yeah? Avoid long sentence. Yeah, you can have a look on this. When you want to submit your research proposal, please do this checking. Yeah? Paragraphs. Yeah? How about your paragraph? That one previously was sentence. Is a paragraph relevant to topics? One idea per paragraph, progression of ideas. I think this is very important. Yeah? When you write a paragraph. Section. Yeah? When you put the different section, then is the logical progression. Yeah? You have to be very clear on that. Yeah? Style. Yeah? Sometimes there's a people use different writing style. Yeah? Referencing style. Yeah? Sometimes whether you use APA, Harvard, Oxford, there's a different way of writing the reference. Yeah? Try to avoid slang or jargon lah. I think this is a very important things to consider. Yeah? Okay. I think that's all for me. Maybe we can stop the slide sharing and start the presentation, the Q&A. Any question from the participant? Where is my? I haven't get my. Okay. Any questions from the participant here? Let me see. Oh, we have quite numbers of participants. Oh yeah, or maybe I didn't expect many students joining this lectures, but we have quite numbers of participants here. Any question? Maybe if you are not familiar with English, you can ask in Bahasa Indonesia maybe. or maybe in Malay, but I can't understand Chinese, so I cannot answer if you're asking in Chinese. So I'll be trying my best. If you have any question, please you can ask it. Any question from the participant? Let me see. Madam Yus, is the lecture clear? Hello, any question? Any question from the, maybe from the participant students, or maybe anyone here? Anything not clear, or anything you like to ask? Anything? Any question? I hope my lecture is clear. I hope, and I really hope that you can be clear. I mean, in terms of voice, in terms of networks. Yeah, I hope the networks was quite stable now. Okay. Any question? Last chance. Okay. Okay. Any questions? Maybe. Okay, if there isn't any question from the participant here, I will stop the recording. Anything maybe what happened? Okay, I will stop the recordings. If you have any questions, you can always ask me. Yeah. Let me write my email. What happened? It's kind of lagging here. One moment. I wrote my email there. Okay, I'm writing my emails there, but this one is not moving. I think I have a problem with my laptops here. It was hanging. Okay, but can you hear my voice?
Yes, Prof, we hear.
Okay. Okay. I'm trying to write here, but the computer is hanging. The Padoni, are you there?
Yes, Prof.
Padoni, can you help me to write my email and my phone numbers in the chat box? Boleh Pak Doni minta tolong? Saya tak boleh type lah Pak Doni. Okay. I think that's all for today. Thank you very much for attending these lectures. If you have any question or any queries, yeah, you are free to email me, or you are free to maybe WhatsApp me with the handphone numbers lah. Yeah, you can see in the chat box. Yeah.